This is Dormouse03 continuing my Max Payne 3 hardcore walkthrough, and this is Chapter 5. So this chapter is pretty lengthy. It's a lot longer than Chapter 4 was, and the thing that you want to do to start here is to make sure you hit this yellow thing up underneath the truck, and try not to miss like I did at first, and got shot there. And then I take a long time to kill these guys right here, just because this isn't the best spot to do it. It's effective, it works, but you can't see them really well over this boat. And so it just takes me a while to get them. So something about this video right here, I trimmed out a bunch of the moments where I cleared out a lot of guys in an area and I was picking up weapons and ammo and moving on to the next section, because I didn't want this chapter to be 3 videos long, and there's really no need for you to see like 5 minutes of me running around picking up ammo. I think if you've gotten this far in the campaign, you know to do that. So when I cut out those sections, I put a crossfade just so it's not quite as jarring, and so that you know that there's a moment where I went in between sections. So here's the first part of that. And this chapter, at least the first part of this chapter, isn't too bad. You just want to make sure that you kind of hang back, pick a nice spot where you have good cover, like what I'm doing right here, and just really slowly make your way through all the enemies. And you don't have to worry about headshots quite as much on this level because these gang members aren't really wearing body armor, and so a few shots, even if they're in their torso, will take them down. So basically, at least the beginning of this chapter is just being careful, staying in cover, and doing your standard thing. So I'm gonna continue talking a little bit more about some of the multiplayer in this game. And I was mentioning in the previous video that I have played around with some of the multiplayer. I haven't played it a whole lot because I've been doing these story modes, which I really enjoy. But some of the multiplayer is pretty fun, especially the gang wars. And right here, you do want to shoot dodge immediately, because you're far too exposed right there, and you can take those guys out much more effectively if you dodge around that corner. So and right here, you just want to be careful of guys rushing you on the ground level, but once you take out that guy, you should be fine. Just be careful and make sure you're watching for dudes that are gonna come out. And sometimes that guy right there will rush you, and that particular time he did not. He still put me on the ground, but because I think he has a shotgun, and yep, even though I got the drop on him, he still managed to get a shot off on me. And so you want to be careful of him, and a lot of times he will rush you around that corner while you're trying to pick off the guy up top, so just be aware of that. And okay, so multiplayer modes. I particularly enjoyed the gang wars. I like objectives in this kind of multiplayer stuff. There are only a few games really that hold my interest with stuff like deathmatch and team deathmatch. Just because, I don't know, it's not the most fun and stimulating thing in the world, at least for me. To just be doing that kind of thing over and over. I do like to have objectives. I like for it to change it up. And the mode is kind of different because if your team wins one of the objectives, then that kind of sets you up in a more favorable position, supposedly, for the next objective, and the other team will be in a slightly disadvantaged position. So that's kind of a neat concept. Some of the objectives, it's sort of unclear exactly what you're supposed to be doing, because there's like one where you have to grab bags and take them to drop-off locations, but it seems like even if you don't do that, whoever wins is based on how many kills you get, and maybe by taking the bags it increases your score. I'm not exactly sure. I've only played a few games of it. But it's kind of neat. The biggest issue that I have with the multiplayer is that it seems a little bit unbalanced, and this is a problem that I find with a lot of these multiplayer games, where you level up and you're able to unlock better weapons and equipment and things like that, and so you end up with someone who, is like me and doesn't play the multiplayer so much because they enjoy more of the single player experience. And you want to jump into the multiplayer, but the people who, I don't really understand, but who only want to do the multiplayer, and that's all they've done on this game. And they've just put hours and hours into it, and they have things like RPGs and abilities and equipment where they take more damage or headshot damage, or things like that you can unlock. And it puts you at such a bad spot when you're playing against a bunch of people like that, because you could be decent and able to shoot guys and kill them, but they just have such an advantage over you purely based on the amount of time that they've put into it and those weapons and equipment that they've unlocked, that you're not going to be able to do as well as you probably would if it were a balanced and fair fight. And I'm all for having different class types, people who are sort of light and agile, or heavies, that kind of thing I'm fine with. But I don't know, being able to unlock things that just make it seem so unfair to someone who hasn't played a whole lot, it's just something that I dislike about a lot of multiplayer games out there, Call of Duty included. Where you have the people who've prestiged 90 times and I mean, there's just someone who's like a level 15 or something. There's just no way you can compete against people like that, unless they just are incompetent with gaming, and the only reason that they've ranked up is because they've played thousands of hours and they haven't gotten any better, which seems unlikely. That you could put that much time into a game and not at least be competent with it. So, I don't know. It just takes a little bit away from the idea that I have that games should be about skill. Skill and tactics and, planning. And when they become more about, how long you've played it and what equipment you have and, how fast your connection speed is, it just loses the fun for me. But that doesn't mean that I don't play multiplayer, and it doesn't mean that, I don't have some decent games and that it isn't fun all the time for me, because that's not true. Sometimes I do go in and have a good time, but I would say this is one where, I'm going to be playing more, when my friends are on and we can kind of team up and horse around and talk and whatnot, and it's not going to be one that I regularly would go on by myself to enjoy the experience, just because I hate it when I feel like there's a balance problem as far as abilities and weapons are concerned, and it's just a peeve. So in any case, that's my sort of rough opinion on the multiplayer, having played it only for a little while. And I do like the customization system for it. I mean, it's not the best customization in the world, but I do like that, you know, you can choose your gender, you can sort of choose your looks and outfit and whatnot to a degree. I mean, I think it has enough of that for this kind of game. This isn't Saints Row or something where the focus is on that. So I think it's got enough of that to feel like you've made your own character. And so I do enjoy that. I like the ability to choose my gender in the multiplayer like this, because, you know, I'm a girl and I like to play as a girl. It's just, I don't know, it's just a thing. And I guess for the males out there, you don't really run into the same kind of problem, because generally in any multiplayer that you have, you're going to get to play as a guy. And I mean, you might not have someone who looks like you or who is your race or your build or whatever, but there's just something about playing it as the gender that you are, or would like to be, I guess. And that just, it adds something to the experience, at least for me. I think, and it may be more noticeable for us female gamers out there, because you don't see it as often. And when you do see it, it really catches your attention probably a little bit more than it does for our male counterparts. So I appreciate that. And the combat and everything works just as well in multiplayer as it does in single player, it seems like. So they don't really have many issues with that as far as I've noticed. It's just the issue of balance between players who are high level and not. And it doesn't seem to have a matchmaking based on skill, at least not that I've noticed. Because it seems like from the moment I started, and I mean, this is like a week after the game came out, right? From the minute I started playing with that multiplayer, there were people who were like level 20, 30, 40, and had unlocked all those weapons, and, you know, I don't know, just seems weird. So maybe they'll fix that, or there is a better matchmaking system, and there just weren't many people on at the time when I was playing. I don't know, but there doesn't seem to be any way to customize your matchmaking preference to be either sort of like skill level or rank or you know, connection speed or anything like that. And maybe there is, and I just haven't found it yet because I haven't messed around with it too much. But in any case, that's my opinion on the multiplayer. For this section right here, on old school, I liked to go around behind that container that I'm sort of is on my left right now. But when I did it on this run through, I decided to sort of stay back there for the majority of the time and kind of peek out and kill people, because it seemed like the safer way to go. And when you get out here, they do sort of have a tendency to rush you around that container, or to spam grenades in your area and force you to move around to places that you don't necessarily want to go. So even though you don't get a kill cam in this area, once he starts talking like that, he will be finished with that area. And that is the last part in this video, and I will continue chapter 5 in the next part. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in part 2.